What about people who would like to, buy some bee houses? What do you call them?
Some hives.
Hives.
Some hives, colonies.
Colonies. Is that still possible right now?
There's a couple of ways that you can get started with bees. Traditionally, you would buy a package or, order that about January or whatever, and they usually arrive in April or somewhere thereafter, depending on the season, how warm and how fast it's coming along. We're sort of discouraging packages these days because they're grown down south en masse by commercial breeders that don't care too much about resistance to the mites and so on, and we're trying to get more locally grown bees in these hives so that they can stay alive without the use of pesticides. Pesticides are a problem for the bees outside, but one of the ways that they've been coping with the mites is to actually put miticides inside the hive. And that's, if it'll kill a mite, it'll also be damaging to a bee.
Right.
So we're trying to get away from that by encouraging resistant stock, which is not generally what you get in the packages, and by exchanges and things.
And where do we get the resistant stock?
Various places. This year's school, we're going to have some people that grow it. We can get information of where these are available or whatever. The best way to start with bees, in my opinion, is to get what we call a nuke, which is a nucleus colony. And that is a bee colony that's actually, they're all the daughters of the queen. In other words, they've actually grown from scratch. Whereas a package is kind of like an Ellis Island thing where they take all these different bees and throw them into a group and say, make a city.
Yeah.
And, it works sort
Sometimes.
of, but it's not the best way to do things. So if you have a queen that is resistant and all of the bees in there are her daughters, it's a much better way to go. So there's various sites. I can't really give you all of the...
No, we don't want all of it. We just want some ways, and Buncombe County's number plus that website should get people started on this. Understand that this would be a wonderful New Year's resolution coming up and a wonderful Christmas present to a family from either mom or dad for the kids to learn about bees and start a hive in their backyard. These are some of the really interesting educational experiences. Those people are working with homeschool is a great way to give education, and the bees teach so much.
They really do. We've had quite a few father-son and mother-daughter, mother-son groupings where they've all gone into it together and helped out, and it's amazing. We're actually getting quite a few women beekeepers in the last few years.
Yes, I could see that very easily, and just once you get your bees together, the nice thing is you don't have to walk it every day.
No. You
Or
can
put out food for it, or take it to the vet on a regular basis. It is in some ways a pet, but it's also in some ways a very productive system that can help you and your neighbor, and obviously eating honey from your hive.
Oh, it's got to be the best. It's your plants and your bees.
I mean, the kings don't have that in some places. So this is an opportunity to really step up and bring some needed love for these animals, the little bees, insects, to our individual neighborhoods. And I would encourage maybe a cul-de-sac or some people close to each other to maybe join together in doing this effort. Just to give somebody an idea, what would be a cost of just getting a hive together?
We usually try to really downplay that so that by the time they find out how much it really costs, that they're already hooked. But you could spend $300 on a hive getting started in a year. Some of the stuff is you don't repeat it once you get it. You've got the boxes, you've
Right.
always got the boxes. Once you get your comb drawn and your frames, that can be reused.
Right.
Veils, protective gear, hive tools, a lot of the stuff that is upfront cost
Right.
is a one-time thing. So
Gotcha.
I guess it depends on how you want to figure it. But
Yeah, but yeah, as a long-term expense and endeavor with the educational factors and the health factors, that actually, if you, especially since everybody's talking about health insurance lately, it would seem like having a beehive would be a good way, $300 to put into the family to be healthy for the year, would be well worth it.
well, you were asking about in the health food stores, they sell pollen, bee pollen. And I believe the idea is that if you have pollen that you have allergies to or that you react to, if you ingest a small amount of that, it's sort of like a vaccination, that sort of idea.
Yes.
So you would want pollen locally, I would think, more than just
Exactly.
bee pollen that you bought. that
Exactly,
might come
exactly,
from
exactly.
somewhere else.
Yeah, so those people who see bottles from China or even upstate New York understand that the best honey for you is a local honey.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
so check the label.
Yeah, I have an actually funny honey story, Gesundheit, in that I was at Belshare, and they only let farmers in for 1 year, which was 2 years ago, at a very reduced rate, and it paid for me. And I bought some honey to sell on the street, and it was sourwood honey. And I found out last year that sourwood was honey was almost non-existent last year. 2 years ago it happened, but so I have almost these incredible honey jars, big ones, with honeycombs in it, of sourwood honey from 2 years
It
ago.
doesn't go bad. I've had people say, well, is that, I heard that was last year's honey. Well, in the case of sourwood, there wasn't any locally. I'm talking about around Buncombe County.
Yeah.
There really wasn't any produced this year and hardly any last year. But honey doesn't go bad. So
Right.
if you have sourwood honey,
Yeah.
It's
an investment, guys, and this is part of our being resilient, and also the bees. If you make a friend with a beehive, you are really spreading your good influence to your neighbors. Talk to 3-mile radius that you, with one act, are helping everybody in that 3-mile radius. Plus, you're helping the bees, and it comes back to you as good honey. It's kind of like a win-win situation. And in time, when inflation comes in, people will look and say, hey, this was the time to start our bee colonies. And so we're giving you a little forecast, folks, to put this into your program for the new year, and a fabulous time. We still got a couple of weeks to maybe get a hive as to start off the process, and then get your bees in January or February. It would be a wonderful, wonderful way to spend the holidays in anticipation of all the great work you're going to do during the year.
But they can actually start with bees at any time. Not now, not during the middle of December, but everybody wants to get started in spring and have that spring flow honey. You have to grow your hive up. If you're starting from a package or a nuke, you probably won't get spring honey of that year.
Right.
You might get sourwood or that sourwood flow in July the first year, but you're mostly trying to get them through the next year. And we said $300 for a hive, but on a decent year, when we do have a good flow, when we don't have a drought and problems like that, it's not unusual to get 2 or 3 supers from a hive on the spring flow, and that would translate to like 5 gallons of honey.
Okay, so now you put your pencil to work there. I couldn't even imagine what the cost of a gallon of honey would be. Do you have an idea?
Well, we only sell by pounds because we sell out every year. We sell every bit we produce. But there's 12 pounds in a gallon.
And how much is that pound?
Last year we sold for $8 a pound. I
So
think
times 12 would be 94 or something like that. About $100. So if you had 2 floats, hey, you're 2/3 of the way home on your
You've
300,
almost covered that.
and next year you're gone. I mean, it's all been paid for. So I think that that is obviously a great way to go, and you know, it may take you, if you're eating a lot of it yourself, a couple of years to get there, but that's still a fabulous payback option for people, and if you want to put your finances into good stead, it would seem that this is a good way to start off the new year.
Well, but gone are the days when you could just get bees and put them out there and leave them alone. It's getting harder
Right.
to manage them and to shepherd them and to make sure that we can keep them alive without chemicals. So it's I don't want to give the impression it's the easiest thing, but
Right, there is some work, but the rewards are way off the chart. So I think that any of that work is good work, and as some people say, a right livelihood if you really make your hobby into your profession. And a beekeeper as a profession, or one of the income streams that you have, is just so easy to understand how that makes absolute good sense.
one thing that I've discovered increasingly over the years is that the bees really have a lot to teach me.
Oh,
And-
yeah.
And they've done a lot toward my idea of giving back to others, for example. Once you become a beekeeper, you become so aware of the weather, of all kind of what's in bloom, what's not in bloom. Do we have a drought? It makes you so much more alive, being aware of what's good for the bees, and it's really good for you.
Right.
You know, they do more for us than we do for them, I think.
Absolutely, and the way we encourage people to talk to plants, I think it would be extremely interesting to try and talk to a hive and see what would come out of that. They are communicating. We do know that, and if we could ever tap into what they're saying and how they're saying it, it would be, I think, just an incredible experience to just figure out what a bee is saying.
There are a lot of beekeepers that talk to their bees. And I think the bees probably talk to them. We have now, when we sit on the porch, sometimes a honeybee will come and land on the
Right.
hand
Yeah.
instead of the old, when 4 bees.
Yeah,
Now it's like, oh, what are you doing?
yeah, yeah.
Looking
yeah.
for something to eat in
That's-
December.
That's always a sweetness to take that fear level away and replace it with an honest emotional feeling that you love this little insect and love what it's doing and love how you are interacting with that little insect. I think is something that our urban people have a tendency to be as a major challenge. The fear level of everything in the city against the country is quite prevalent. But to be able to be in tune with these insects